for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
16 years after one of sport's biggest scandals, Elin Nordegren is finally speaking out about her life with Tiger Woods. She shares her side of the story, the truth behind the headlines, and how she's rebuilt her life since those shocking events. Join us as we uncover Elin's journey, the challenges she faced, and the life she's created for herself today. Before the world knew him, before the scandals, before the headlines, and before his personal life became public drama, Tiger Woods was already one of the most talked about young athletes in the world. His story started long before fame, shaped by family, discipline, and a level of focus that most children never experience. Tiger was born as Eldrick Taunt Woods in 1975 in California. From the very beginning, his identity stood out. He didn't see himself fitting into just one category. Instead, he created the term Cablinacion to describe who he was, a mix of Caucasian, Black, American Indian, and Asian heritage. This wasn't just a label, it was his way of taking control of how the world saw him, especially as someone growing up in a highly visible space. A huge part of that early shaping came from his father, Earl Woods. Earl was a retired U.S. Army officer and a Vietnam War veteran. He believed strongly in discipline, focus, and mental strength. These weren't just ideas. He actively trained Tiger using those principles from a very young age. Their bond was close, but it was also structured. Earl didn't just raise a son, he guided a future competitor. Because of Earl's military background, Tiger had access to places most kids didn't. He practiced at golf courses connected to military bases, including the Navy golf course. These were not beginner-level spaces. They exposed him to serious play early on. Instead of casual practice, Tiger grew up in an environment where expectations were already high. What makes his story even more unusual is how early it all began. Tiger was introduced to golf before he even turned 2. By the time most children were just learning basic coordination, he was already swinging a club, and it didn't take long for people to notice. At just 2 years old, he appeared on national television. One of his earliest appearances was on a show with Bob Hope, where he showed off his skills to a wide audience. His milestones kept coming quickly. At age 3, he shot a 48 over 9 holes, which is something many adult beginners can't achieve. By age 5, he was featured in major golf publications and TV programs. He wasn't just playing well for his age, he was performing at a level that made people stop and pay attention. As he grew older, he began dominating junior competitions. He won major junior championships and built a reputation as the best young golfer in the country. Winning became normal for him. But with that success came pressure. People started expecting greatness every time he stepped onto a course. The idea that he was destined for greatness followed him everywhere. That's where the big question started to form. Was Tiger choosing this path, or was it already set for him? With his father's influence, early training, and constant success, it often felt like everything was leading him in one direction. And just as the world became convinced they were watching a perfect rise, something much bigger was quietly building behind the scenes. But that perfect image wouldn't last forever. A global icon. As Tiger Woods moved into his teenage years, it became clear that he was no longer just a talented kid. He was now competing at levels that put him ahead of almost everyone his age. He entered major junior tournaments across the United States and quickly built a reputation as someone who didn't just participate, but dominated. His confidence, focus, and consistency made him stand out in every event he played. During these years, Tiger faced stronger competition and began forming early rivalries. One notable moment came when he competed in a national junior tournament and was paired with John Daly, who was already known for his powerful game. Even though Tiger didn't win that round, it showed that he could compete closely with top-level players. These experiences helped sharpen his skills and prepare him for bigger stages. Another important moment came when he met Jack Nicklaus, one of the greatest golfers in history. This meeting wasn't just symbolic. It showed how seriously Tiger was being taken, even at a young age. His father had already set a goal for him to one day break Nicklaus's records, and this added even more attention to his journey. Tiger's amateur career was full of record-breaking achievements. At just 15 years old, he became the youngest winner of the U.S. Junior Amateur Championship. That alone was a major milestone, but he didn't stop there. He went on to win the title multiple times, becoming the only player to win it 3 years in a row. His consistency made it clear that he wasn't just having a good run, he was setting a new standard. In 1996, Tiger made the decision to turn professional. This was a major step, and the expectations were already extremely high. Almost immediately, he signed endorsement deals with major companies like Nike and Titleist. These deals were some of the biggest ever seen in golf at the time, showing that companies believed in his potential not just as a player, but as a global brand. Then came 1997, the year that changed everything. Tiger won the Masters tournament in record-breaking fashion at just 21 years old. It was one of the most dominant performances in golf history. With that win, he became the youngest Masters champion ever, and suddenly, he wasn't just a rising star. He was the face of the sport. Soon after, he reached the #1 spot in the world rankings faster than anyone before him. His success on the course, combined with his growing popularity, turned him into a global icon. He wasn't just winning tournaments, he was changing how people viewed golf. As his career continued to grow, so did his earnings. Endorsements, prize money, and global recognition helped him become one of the highest-paid athletes in the world. Over time, he would become the first athlete to reach $1 billion in earnings, a milestone that showed just how big his impact was. But while everything looked perfect on the outside, there were signs that not everything was as controlled as it seemed. His image was carefully managed, his success was expected, and the pressure never really slowed down. And just as his life seemed perfectly built, someone unexpected was about to enter it and change everything. Elin Nordegren. Before she was known around the world, Elin Nordegren was living a quiet and grounded life in Sweden. She was born in Stockholm in 1980 and grew up in a family that was already somewhat public, but not in a celebrity way. Her life was shaped more by structure, education, and independence than fame or attention. Her mother, Barbara Holmberg, had a strong career in government. She later became Sweden's Minister for Migration and Asylum Policy and also served as a county governor. Her father, Thomas Nordegren, worked as a respected radio journalist and even served as a bureau chief in Washington, D.C. So while Elin grew up in a well-connected family, it was one built on work and responsibility, not luxury or celebrity culture. When Elin was just 7 years old, her parents divorced. This changed the structure of her home life, but it didn't take away the values she was raised with. She grew up alongside her siblings, including her twin sister, and learned early on that she needed to be responsible for herself. Her upbringing focused on staying grounded and working hard. One of the clearest signs of that was her work ethic. As a teenager, Elin and her sister took jobs as supermarket cashiers. They weren't handed everything. They worked to support their studies and gain independence. This part of her life is important because it shows that she wasn't raised expecting fame or wealth. She was used to earning her own way. Her education also played a big role in shaping her path. In her late teens, she moved to Berlin for a year, where she studied at the John F. Kennedy School. During that time, she focused on learning English and German. This experience helped her become more independent and comfortable living outside her home country. Around 2000, Elin briefly stepped into modeling. She even appeared on the cover of a magazine, which brought her some attention. But modeling was never her main goal. She didn't see it as a long-term career. Instead, she had a very different ambition in mind. She wanted to become a child psychologist. That goal showed where her real interests were, helping people and building a stable, meaningful career. Her personality was also very different from the kind of public image that surrounded athletes and celebrities. She was private, calm, and not interested in being the center of attention. While someone like Tiger Woods was constantly in the spotlight, Elin was more comfortable staying out of it. She valued normal life, privacy, and personal growth. At that point, her life had a clear direction. She was focused on education, independence, and building a future that had nothing to do with global fame. And then, through one unexpected connection, her entire path was about to change. The unlikely meeting. The story of how Elin Nordegren met Tiger Woods didn't begin with romance or instant attraction. It started with work, timing, and a simple connection through the world of golf. That connection came through Jesper Parnevik and his wife Mia. Elin had taken a job working for their family as a nanny, helping take care of their children. This role led her to move from Sweden to the United States in 2001. At the time, she wasn't chasing fame or trying to enter celebrity circles. She was simply focused on her job and building her own life. Everything changed when she met Tiger during the 2001 Open Championship. Jesper Parnevik introduced them, but the moment didn't play out the way people might expect. Tiger was already one of the most famous athletes in the world, with global recognition and massive success. But Elin didn't react the way many others did. In fact, she wasn't interested at all. At the time, she was seeing someone else and had no reason to be impressed by his fame. This created an interesting dynamic right from the start. On one side was Tiger, a global superstar used to attention and admiration. On the other side was Elin, a private person who wasn't easily influenced by status or popularity. That difference made their situation stand out. It wasn't a typical celebrity romance built on excitement or public attention. Over time, things slowly began to change. Even though Elin was not interested at first, they stayed in the same social circle through the Parnevik family. Tiger reportedly showed interest in getting to know her better, and eventually the distance between them started to close. By 2002, they were officially dating. As their relationship developed, media attention began to grow. Tiger's life was already heavily covered by the press, and now people were curious about the woman he was spending time with. Elin, who had always preferred privacy, suddenly found herself being watched and talked about. In November 2003, their relationship took a major step forward. During the President's Cup in South Africa, Tiger proposed to Elin at a luxury game reserve. She said yes, marking the start of a new chapter in both of their lives. At that moment, it looked like a strong and serious relationship built over time, not something rushed or forced. And soon, their private relationship would turn into a very public and picture-perfect marriage. A picture-perfect marriage. When Tiger Woods and Elin Nordegren got married in October 2004, everything about their wedding reflected wealth, control, and attention to detail. The ceremony took place at the Sandy Lane Resort in Barbados, one of the most luxurious locations in the world. Tiger didn't just book a venue, he rented out the entire resort for a week. This included multiple golf courses and over 100 rooms, with costs reaching close to $2 million. It was private, exclusive, and designed to keep the media away. After the wedding, they settled into life in Isleworth, a gated and highly secure community in Windermere, Florida. This location was home to many wealthy and high-profile individuals, giving them both comfort and privacy. From the outside, their life looked perfectly balanced. They had money, global recognition, and a controlled environment away from constant public access. At this point, Tiger's career was at its peak. He was winning major tournaments, holding the #1 ranking, and building one of the most successful careers in sports history. His endorsement deals continued to grow, especially with companies like Nike, turning him into a global brand. Over time, he would become the first athlete to earn over $1 billion, which only added to the image of success surrounding him. Through all of this, Elin remained mostly out of the spotlight. She supported Tiger and attended events when needed, but avoided unnecessary attention. She wasn't trying to build a public image for herself. Instead, she focused on her role as a wife and later as a mother. Her quiet presence helped strengthen the public idea that their relationship was stable and grounded. But even during these early years, there were small signs that not everything was as perfect as it seemed. The pressure of fame, constant travel, and high expectations were always present. While nothing had come out publicly yet, the lifestyle they were living came with challenges that were easy to overlook from the outside. 6. Building the ideal family image. As the years went on, Tiger and Elin continued building what looked like the perfect family life. In 2006, they purchased a massive estate on Jupiter Island, Florida, worth around $39 million. They began developing it into a private and secure home where they could raise their family away from public attention. In 2007, they welcomed their first child, a daughter named Sam Alexis Woods. The name Sam had a personal meaning for Tiger, as it was a nickname his father used for him. This moment added another layer to their public image. Now, they weren't just a successful couple, they were a family. In 2009, their second child, Charlie Woods, was born. With 2 children, a luxurious home, and a world-famous career, everything about their life seemed complete. The media often portrayed them as the ideal modern family, successful, happy, and stable. However, not everything was smooth. In 2006, a controversy emerged when fake photos were published by a magazine claiming to show Elin. The images were not real, and she took legal action. She won the case and received compensation, and the publication was forced to issue public apologies. While she handled the situation firmly, it showed how quickly her private life could be pulled into public drama. At the same time, the pressure around them continued to grow. Tiger's fame kept increasing, and with that came more attention, more expectations, and less personal space. Every move they made was watched, even if they tried to stay private. From the outside, everything still looked perfect. A successful athlete, a supportive partner, and a growing family living in luxury. But behind that image, there were pressures building that the public couldn't see. What people believed was a stable and perfect life was, in reality, much more complicated than it appeared. And soon, that perfect image would begin to fall apart in a way no one expected. The first sign. By 2009, Tiger Woods was at the very top of his career. He had fame, money, and global recognition that very few athletes ever reach. But with that level of success came a lifestyle that was hard to manage. Constant travel, media attention, and pressure to perform created a growing gap between his public image and his private life. From the outside, everything still looked perfect. He was seen as a disciplined athlete, a family man, and a role model. But behind the scenes, that image was starting to break. The expectations placed on him were constant, and the life he was living became more complicated than what people could see. In November 2009, things began to shift quickly. A report from the National Enquirer claimed that Tiger was involved in an affair with Rachel Yucatel. The story spread fast and immediately caught public attention. For Elin Nordegren, this was the first serious moment where her marriage was publicly questioned. At first, Tiger tried to control the situation. He arranged for Elin to speak directly with Rachel Yucatel on the phone. During that call, Yucatel denied the claims and said there was no relationship. For a moment, this seemed to calm things down. Tiger appeared confident that the situation had been handled, but Elin wasn't fully convinced. Soon after, her doubts started to grow. At one point, Tiger left his phone unattended, and Elin decided to check it. What she found raised more questions. She noticed other names and contacts that didn't make sense to her. One of those names led her to reach out, but she didn't get a clear answer. Instead, it added to her suspicion. This was the moment when everything started to change inside their marriage. What began as a single rumor turned into something much bigger. Elin was no longer just reacting to a news story. She was trying to understand what was really happening. The emotional tension between them grew quickly. There was no longer a sense of calm or trust. Instead, there were unanswered questions, quiet confrontations, and a growing feeling that something was seriously wrong. At this stage, nothing had fully exploded yet, but the foundation of their relationship was already starting to crack. And within days, everything would come crashing down in a way no one could control. The night, everything exploded. By Thanksgiving night in 2009, the tension inside the home of Tiger Woods and Elin Nordegren had already been building for days. What started as suspicion was about to turn into something much bigger. Late that night, after Tiger had gone to sleep, Elin picked up his phone again. This time, she wasn't just looking, she was searching for answers. When she went through his messages, she found something that confirmed her fears. There were texts that clearly showed a level of intimacy that couldn't be explained away. For Elin, this was the moment where doubt turned into certainty. Instead of confronting him right away, she decided to test what she was seeing. She began sending messages to Rachel Yucatel, pretending to be Tiger. The replies came quickly, and they confirmed everything. There was no confusion anymore. Elin now knew the truth. After that, things moved fast. She called Rachel directly and revealed who she really was. The call ended quickly, but it was enough to trigger what came next. Elin confronted Tiger. What followed was not calm or controlled. It was emotional, loud, and filled with anger and shock. The situation escalated quickly. Tiger, who had just woken up and was trying to process what was happening, became overwhelmed. Instead of staying and dealing with the situation, he tried to get away. He left the house in a rush, barefoot, and got into his Cadillac Escalade. Within minutes, everything turned into chaos. As he drove away, he lost control of the vehicle. The Escalade hit a curb, then a fire hydrant, and finally crashed into a tree just outside the home. The impact left him injured and disoriented. The noise woke up neighbors who rushed outside to see what had happened. Elin was also there, trying to respond to the situation. A 911 call was made, and emergency services arrived quickly. Tiger was found with injuries to his face, bleeding and confused. He was taken to the hospital for treatment. That night didn't just change their lives, it turned a private situation into a public mystery. And by the next morning, the entire world was about to find out just how big this story really was. A global scandal. After the crash, Tiger Woods tried to control the situation as quickly as possible. His first public statement was short and carefully worded. He took responsibility for the accident, but described it as a private matter. He asked for privacy and made it clear that his family situation should not become public discussion. At that moment, he was still trying to keep the focus away from what had really happened inside his home. But that approach didn't last long. The media had already started digging deeper, and the story began to spread rapidly. What started as a car accident quickly turned into something much bigger. News outlets, blogs, and tabloids all began reporting new details, and the situation escalated day by day. Soon, more allegations started to appear. Women began coming forward, claiming they had been involved with Tiger. One of the first names already linked to the story was Rachel Yucatel, but she was not the only one. As the days passed, the number of alleged relationships kept growing. Reports suggested that more than a dozen women were connected to him. By some counts, the number reached around 14 or even more. This completely changed how the public saw him. For years, Tiger had been viewed as focused, disciplined, and in control. Now, that image was being replaced with a very different story. The narrative shifted from admiration to shock. Many people felt betrayed because they had believed in the version of him that had been presented for so long. As the scandal grew, the financial impact followed quickly. Major companies that had worked with Tiger began to distance themselves. Accenture ended its relationship, stating that he was no longer the right representative for their brand. AT&T also pulled its support. Gatorade shut down the line of products connected to him. These were not small deals. They were major partnerships that had helped build his global image. The loss of these sponsors meant a serious financial hit, but it was also about reputation. His image had been a key part of his success, and now that image was damaged. Even organizations connected to golf started to step back. Media coverage remained intense, and every new detail kept the story alive. As the pressure continued to build, Tiger made another decision. He admitted to personal mistakes and announced that he would take a break from professional golf. Not long after, it was reported that he had entered a rehabilitation program for sex addiction. This was presented as a step toward dealing with his behavior and trying to take control of his life again. At this point, the situation had moved far beyond a private issue. It had become one of the biggest scandals in sports history, with global attention and constant coverage. But while the world focused on Tiger, Elin was going through something very different behind closed doors: the divorce. By mid-2010, the cracks in Tiger Woods and Elin Nordegren's marriage had become impossible to ignore. Even after Tiger entered rehab, more revelations about his affairs continued to surface, leaving Elin certain that the marriage could not recover. The trust she once had was gone, and the decision to end the relationship became inevitable. The legal process took place in Florida, where both parties filed for divorce. The proceedings were closely watched, but Elin remained mostly private, avoiding the media frenzy that had dominated the previous months. By August 23, 2010, the divorce was officially finalized in Bay County Circuit Court in Panama City, Florida. Along with the legal closure, Tiger and Elin released a joint statement. They said simply, "We are sad that our marriage is over, and we wish each other the very best for the future." The tone was measured and respectful, emphasizing cooperation and the well-being of their children rather than blame. Custody of their two children, Sam and Charlie, was shared jointly. Both parents committed to raising them together, despite the personal difficulties between them. The financial settlement reportedly reflected the prenuptial arrangements Elin had renegotiated during Tiger's time in rehab, ensuring her security while also dividing assets appropriately. And in the years that followed, Elin would finally find her own voice and rebuild a life that was entirely her own. Elin breaks her silence. Years after the scandal and divorce, Elin Nordegren finally decided to speak publicly in 2016. For more than 6 years, she had stayed silent, focusing on her children and her own recovery. She chose to break that silence to set the record straight and share her perspective after living through a story that had been widely misrepresented in the media. In her interview, Elin emphasized the depth of the betrayal she experienced. She said the word betrayal barely captured what she went through. The emotional pain had been intense, and surviving it required focus, strength, and determination. Despite everything, she wanted to communicate honestly about her experience and how she had moved forward. Elin also directly addressed rumors about violence on the night of the crash. She denied ever hitting Tiger or being violent in any way. Instead, she described her version of the night as a moment of concern. When Tiger left the house and didn't return for some time, she found him in the crashed Escalade and did everything she could to help him get out safely. She clarified that reports suggesting otherwise were false and misleading. If you found this story compelling, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives behind the headlines.